We've just had our correspondent, Bernard Smith, in Jerusalem explaining the situation there with the Kawara family. That was a family in Khan Yunis area of Gaza. 8 members were killed, 6 of them children. I know that at the UN today you played a siren on your phone that showed that Israelis only have 15 seconds to reach a shelter. I'm just wondering how much of a warning that family had. And clearly it wasn't enough because 8 of them were killed.
Well, I think one should clearly, there's no moral equivalence because if you look, Israel is trying to target Hamas's infrastructure and military infrastructure. And as you know, and you say it yourself, we basically phone in, we try to do our best not to have civilian casualties. Hamas, as you see, are indiscriminately sending rockets to the major cities in Israel, and they don't care who they hit. In the sense, what you see here is very clearly Israel on the front line, trying to fight phenomena that we see all around us, both in ISIS. We see that from Abuja in Nigeria to Fallujah in Iraq.
Okay, I don't really understand this argument. I don't really understand the argument that Israel is hitting military targets in Hamas, because as in the case of the Kawara family, we had 8 family members killed. 6 of those were children. They were not military targets. Also in Khan Yunis, we saw a beachside cafe hit. Now, people in that cafe were watching the World Cup. That is not a military target. So why does this argument keep coming up?
Okay, because look, you're setting a question which is clear, and it's important for me to say that I think everyone in Israel, innocent casualties, we feel the sorrow, and it's genuine. But the repetition, basically you're asking us, because Hamas has started this and is sending rockets to the major cities in Israel, and you're asking us to basically put out a fire. You're asking a fire brigade to put out a huge wildfire with buckets of water. The equation is very, very clear. If it's going to be quiet in Israel, it's going to be quiet in Gaza. Every government has to do what Israel is doing to protect its citizens. And we will keep on doing that. And I want to tell you, I started telling you that this is a whole phenomena that we see all around. Countries that want the world to be with them when they fight terrorism should stand today with Israel, because this is exactly
want to take you back to this analogy that you use. Excuse me for interrupting, but I do have to pick up on it, that Israel is trying to fight a huge fire with a few buckets. I'm sure that many people looking at the figures in this conflict would say that the reverse is actually true. And I think we have some figures here to show you, because at least 88 people have been killed in Gaza since airstrikes began on Tuesday, and the number of people killed in Israel has been 0. The number of people injured in Gaza is at least 550, and the number of Israelis who have been injured is just 2. Ambassador, how can you say that you're fighting a huge fire with buckets of water? The rockets are the buckets of water, and you are fighting back with extremely disproportionate force.
Well, I would like, again, to put that in context again, because you forget that the state of Israel and the people of Israel, we left Gaza. We left Gaza completely, not to look back into Gaza. And what you see today is a whole country under rockets fired, and you know the numbers, and you know yourself, and I really hope that you would show it, that Hamas is using kindergartens, schools, and mosques,
and yet we are seeing a huge number of children in Gaza Strip being killed. I can't let you finish, because you're saying what you're saying doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense with the figures. We are seeing 88 people inside of Gaza killed. 0 people killed in Israel.
That in the sense, Hamas is sending children and women and using basically the Palestinians as human shields. And the message is very clear. The international community should send a very clear message to Hamas. Unity, does not give you impunity. If you continue to put terror on the state of Israel and its people, we will make everything we can to restore quiet and security to the people of Israel.
Okay, I mean, this unity does not mean impunity is a line that's come out of Israel. We saw the whole world rejoice when we saw Fatah and Hamas join forces and to see a Hamas-backed government in Palestine, because that is progress forward. Why did Israel pull out of those talks after that unity government was made?
You really think that a terrorist organization, if the Palestinians want to make peace with Israel, I don't think the way is doing peace with a terrorist organization that doesn't recognize Israel's right to exist, nor former agreements, and uses violence. If there's a change and Hamas, by coincidence, has recognized Israel's right to exist, please phone me on a 911 number. This is a terrorist organization that is doing everything it can to hurt innocent civilians in Israel, and this terrorist organization
just how many innocent civilians in Gaza have been hurt over the last 3 days? Do you know the figure?
I'll tell you this. It's really interesting that Hamas is targeting an electricity plant in Ashkelon that basically provides electricity to Gaza.
Can you just answer my question? How many innocent civilians in Gaza have been killed over the past 3 days by Israeli airstrikes? How many?
They have tried to explode tunnels in Kerem Shalom, the only crossing that passes food to the citizens of Gaza. And look at the way they behave. You really think that that's the way they really
you just don't seem to be answering my question. It's a very simple case of numbers, Ambassador. Please tell me how many innocent civilians Israeli airstrikes have killed in Gaza over the past 3 days.
I am sure that you will give the exact numbers out of which Hamas is basically giving out. We will find, and I can tell you one thing, that the important thing at this stage is for you and others to understand that no government will allow this terror against the citizens of Israel to continue.
What's terror against the citizens of Israel when you can't even look at the terror of the citizens against Gaza? Give me, please, a number of innocent civilians who've been killed in Gaza over the past 3 days.
There's no impunity. And there's no impunity to continue that. And I'm sure you would count the amount of missiles that were shot on Israeli citizens and cities as we speak now in the last 5 hours. This is something that will not continue. And we will do everything we can to dismantle and take out the military infrastructure of Hamas so our citizens will be able to live in peace and security.
Do you know how many children have been killed in Gaza over the past 3 days?
I see, of course I do.
How many?
And I'm sure that I'm sure that Al Jazeera would also tell us how many people were sent over to as human shields around places.
Do you accept that any civilians have been killed in Gaza? Innocent civilians in Gaza? Do you accept that they have?
How many rockets were sent on Israeli cities in the last 3 days?
Please, could you answer my question as to how many innocent civilians have been killed in Gaza? It's a very straightforward question in the middle of a conflict.
I'll tell you what I know. What I know as a fact, that Hamas kidnapped and killed 3 Israelis, murdered them, and afterwards kept on firing at Israeli cities. I can promise you one thing. This will not continue, and we will not let this terrorist organization basically put our people under threat. This will have to stop.
Okay, Ron Prosser, the Israeli ambassador to the UN, thank you very much.